ఓం శ్రీ గురుభ్యో నమః. అందరికీ నమస్కారం. In this video, let us examine what is grief and how to overcome it. It is said that when Buddha went back after enlightenment to see his father and others in the palace, he was received very well with love and affection by the king, that is his father, the ministers and other members of the royal family. His son Rahul, who was 7 years old when he left the palace, has come running and hugged his father. The king, observing that Yashodhara, the wife of Gautama, was not there, he sent a word for her to come to that gathering. Then Yashodhara, the wife of Buddha, sent a word back to the king that if Gautama has got any kind of honor and if the wife deserves any kind of honor, Gautama will come and see her. So Buddha rose readily to visit Yashodhara at her place. So he told his two disciples who were accompanying him that I am free, but the princess Yashodhara is not yet free. She is very sorrowful for having not seen me for a long time. Unless the grief runs its course, her heart will cleave. That means it breaks up. So if she tries to touch Tathagata, please do not prevent her. So this is what Buddha told his disciples and went to see Yashodhara, his wife. So after seeing Buddha, after a long time, like a vessel overflowed, her joy overflowed, and she came running and caught hold the feet of the master and the world teacher Buddha. Then, remembering that her father-in-law and the king was also there along with others, she maintained a distance from Buddha, slightly moving away from him after hugging his feet with tears flowing down. So, the king told Buddha that she had been in deep love and got abundant affection towards her husband. Since he left the palace all these 7 years, she has been getting the information as to what Buddha was doing and living, and followed him ruthlessly. When she heard that Buddha shaved his head, she also shaved her head. When Buddha relinquished the beautiful clothes and perfumes and ornaments, she also relinquished those items. When she heard that Buddha was eating only in earthen pots, she also started eating only in the earthen pots. She also relinquished the bed and sleeping on the floor. So whatever her husband did, she also followed him and living like that out of deep affection and love. Then Buddha earlier told his disciples that the grief has to run its course. Her heart will break. So, don't prevent her if she tries to touch us, the Tathagata, the Holy One. That's what he said before coming to Yasodhara's place. Isn't it? So, what is the relevant, pertinent, the teaching the Buddha has given at that point of time regarding the sorrow? He said the sorrow, that is the grief, has to run its own course. Very pertinent, its own course. It means, see, in the life, when our expectations are met, we feel elated with happiness. And when our expectations are not met, we drown in sorrow and feel sad. Isn't it? So, we feel very much upset when something goes wrong, or when someone whom we love intensely is no more. So, the grief is profound. So, how can we overcome the grief because of loss of anyone? How to overcome it? The point here is, you can overcome such kind of grief by loving someone else with the same intensity. So, when you find that kind of someone else, you can love profoundly with that much intensity as you have loved your lost one, and will be able to overcome such kind of grief. But when it is not possible, or when you cannot find that kind of someone else, so the other option is to shift your attention from that grief, from the cause of that grief. How is it possible? You see, the behavior of Yashodhara in the above story, as the king told Buddha that it has come because of her deep affection and love towards her husband. So, she loved him so much, she started living in the palace as Buddha lived in the forest outside the palace. So, that much intensity was there in that love and affection. So, the king pleaded Buddha to forgive her for her behavior. I mean, for her behavior when she saw Buddha after such long time, and when she caught hold of his feet, who was a world teacher and master of truth. So, the point here is, when you try to love someone with so much intensity, you can overcome from that kind of grief caused due to loss of that person whom you loved most. The other point is, or option is, to divert your attention to something higher than that emotion. See, grief is not a negative emotion. It has arisen out of a deep affection and love. Grief arises only because of a deep affection and love towards someone whom or in whom you have put all your emotions and love and affection, etc., in that person. So, it is not a negative emotion. If it is a negative emotion in course of life, it can be corrected as and when it arises. But this is not a negative, grief is not a negative emotion. So, you can overcome it by shifting your attention when it is not possible to love someone with the same intensity. See, what is that higher attention and shifting of your attention to a higher emotion? See, all your emotions, whether positive or negative, or a kind of feelings that the source of those emotions is mind, your mind, but the feelings are in your heart. Emotion arises in the mind and feeling arises in the heart. So, when you divert and shift your attention to an higher emotion, how it is possible? It is possible when you dwell in your inner world, when you turn inward and dwell in your inner world, and inner world, in that inner world, all your emotions arise. And all those emotions you can see yourself, and by introspection with wisdom, you will be able to overcome that kind of emotions and get absorbed in the higher dimension of infinity, in the higher dimension of infinite love, mercy and grace of the Lord. You see, our grief has a root cause of attachment. Attachment to the thing or person whom you loved most. So, the attachment is the root cause for your grief. When you realize the impermanent nature of that thing or person, when you dive into yourself, you come to know that this is a mere play of the divine to apprise or to wake up yourself from the slumber of the ignorance of the impermanence of the nature of the thing or person you love. So, when you realize this way, then you come to know the love, the infinite love and mercy and grace of the Lord, who is sustaining you in all the situations of your life. So, your inherent nature, being a unique creation of that merciful divinity, is bliss, that is Ananda. So, there is no room and place for any kind of grief to take over or ride over that eternal bliss. Because when you realize that eternal blissful nature of your being, all emotions get merged and flown away in that wisdom. You see, in this regard, there was a disciple and a master. So, disciple asked the master, Master, I am frequently getting anger for each and everything in day-to-day life. I feel very much disturbed over this coming of the anger on and off. Please help me to overcome this anger in me. Then the master asked the disciple, is it so? Oh, then show me that anger. Can you show me? Then the disciple said, Master, what are you asking? How can I show it to you? At present, it is not there. When it is not there, how can I show it to you now? Then Master told the disciple, so it is not there now. So you can't get it whenever you want it. So it comes and goes, isn't it? He said, yes. When it comes and goes, that means the coming and going on its own, then that is not your nature. When it is not your nature, why do you want to get rid of it? It is not you. So why do you want to get rid of it? When it comes, just observe, be watchful, be mindful. It goes away. That's what you are telling. So during that time, be mindful, be watchful. So similarly, grief is not our nature. Bliss is our nature. So when we are mindful and when we are in harmony with ourselves, when we observe and accept whatever goes on in us, then you will be unmindful of the that kind of grief. See, our feelings are like waves in the ocean, negative or positive. They are like waves. They rise and subside, they rise and subside after a while. So, when such is the case, it is a part of us going on in us. So, let us not be attached to whatever goes on, which is impermanent. So, only love and gratitude are the terminal points for grief. With love, with intense love and with intense gratitude towards the divinity, towards all loving and merciful divinity, you will be able to overcome the impermanent grief and dwell in the eternal bliss. Thank you.